All right. We are live back again on Facebook Live for our
Yes,
Tuesday talk.
yes,
Yes,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
excited. Last week was a great episode. So if anybody out there watching missed last Tuesday, make sure you check out the replay. We really dove into those parent teacher conference questions that parents can ask. We talked about teacher responsibilities, parent responsibilities too. So that's a great one to go back, watch the replay, and jot down some notes so you can be prepared.
Absolutely. And please don't hesitate to leave us comments in the replay too. We still go back and look at those and interact with you guys to kind of see how you liked it, what kind of things you want us to include in our next talk. So go check that out.
Yeah. So before we dive into tonight's topic, how's your week been? I know middle school getting close to, winter break, and as a middle school teacher, what's your vibe this week?
Listen, I have to be honest and I have to be transparent. I'm at a point where I told those kids, my feelings feel like I don't want to help you. So help me help my feelings to feel like I still want to be that teacher that you need at the end of the semester, even though you didn't do what I told you to do. So listen, all teachers everywhere want this break more than any kid and any parent.
But the kids feel very different because my son is saying he is so ready for the break. He can't wait for Friday to get here. He is pumped, and his teachers are like, the class is off the chain. Like, everybody is just mentally checked out, and it's just basically like make it through the end of the week.
It really is. It really is. And it's this time of year you really have to be careful too because so many people are mentally checking out that we have situations that can come up that can pop off, like it wasn't too long ago I had a couple of girls who were ready to kind of go at each other. And
Mm.
me being who I am, I'm like, okay, y'all, what's the problem? Well, so and so told me that this girl said this about me, and then the other girl is basically repeating the same thing. And then so and so other person said this, that she said this about me. And I'm like, so did y'all talk to each other
Yeah.
about the situation?
Yeah.
No. But she posted this on Instagram and on Snapchat. And so I had to clap back. And I'm like, but did you talk to each other?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great segue into tonight's topic, social media versus real life, and the social interactions that kids encounter, whether it be online through social media or in person as well. I know you've been at middle school, social media is huge. And with me having an elementary school child, social media really isn't a thing that he's into yet. He's only third grade, but those social interactions at school really can amount to a lot. So that's a great segue into our topic for tonight. So with these two middle school girls, you're asking them, did they talk to each other about the problem? And they're like, no. So what was your next step in that conversation?
So the next step was to actually attack head on what was the thing that was said. Okay. What did she say? What did you hear that she said about you? Well, I heard this. So then I go to, did you say that? No, I didn't say that. I said this, and this. So basically, my response as the teacher is okay, since you didn't talk about it to each other, let's get the facts from the horse's mouth,
Yep.
from the two of you. Let me mediate this conversation between the two of you so that you can see that you both got played. Like, so that you can understand how to handle this type of conflict and realize that a lot of times it's not what you think it really is.
Yeah. And I think that's so great that as the teacher, you don't just dismiss it because it's really easy to just be dismissive of it, right? Like, oh gosh, this drama, I don't have time to deal with that. I have other things to do. And so for you to take that pause and have that moment with them to try and peel back the layers on it to really get down to the root of the matter, is very important. And I'm sure, well, I'll ask you, I want to insert my assumptions. Did that help resolve the issue? Did things stay the same? Did it make it worse?
So in that particular situation, it did actually help because the two girls were actually friends with each other. And I felt like they were good friends to each other. And, a lot of times people don't like when they see good things happening with other people. They become envious or jealous or something like that. So in that situation, it did help. They did understand the other person's perspective. They realized what was happening, and they kept remaining friends.
That's good. I think that if teachers have that time during the day, because we talked about last week how your days are full in the classroom, having that moment to help the students work through the problems instead of just ignoring it, dismissing it, can help prevent either an argument later on in the day, a fight breaking out in another class period, or on the way home, whatever. So having helped them work through that is hats off to you, because you could have very well just said, I don't have the time for this right now. Y'all go work that out. And you didn't.
It's so easy. It's so easy because, like, now I've been teaching for 18 years. So earlier in my career, all I really had to worry about was the conversation
Mm-hmm.
in person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the blow up of social media and all the things that happens on the screen, now I
Yeah.
have to also be concerned about how that's exacerbating the situation.
Yep. Because as we know, even as adults, saying things on social media comes off much easier than saying things to people's faces. So things can get said all the time, kind of behind the scenes on social media, and then it manifests itself when the people see each other in real life. And in this case, middle schoolers, I have this core belief that as humans, we all just want to feel seen and we want to feel heard. And so, in that moment, allowing them to explain the situation to you, you asking questions to gain some insight, that helped them feel seen and feel heard. And it didn't take a huge chunk of time out of your day. It just took that moment and diffused the situation that could have just escalated throughout the day.
I just feel like you're right because it's so important that our teens, but our younger kids too, but definitely our teens, like they're at a point where they are just figuring out who they are, what
Mm-hmm.
they're about. If somebody does this to me, then I'm going to respond this way because I got to show, whatever they're trying to show. I got to show that I'm not weak. I got to show that I'm bad. And
Mm-hmm.
it could have escalated, which
Yeah.
is why I knew to go ahead and step in to keep those problems from unfolding and becoming bigger.
Yeah, and some of that, what you just mentioned, kind of relates back to some comments left on last week's live about social emotional learning. And so, for kids to just for those who are watching who aren't familiar with that term, social emotional learning just encompasses self awareness, self management, that social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making. Those are the skills that are being required of kids, especially in middle school. And if they haven't had the time to develop those or haven't had somebody work with them as a mentor, as a coach to help them develop those skills, then they might act out or respond in a way that either gets them in trouble, ISS, suspension, detention, whatever, because they haven't developed that social emotional learning. So, in your experience in middle school, is that something that's focused on either during counseling sessions or just as a school? Do you all focus on that?
So we definitely do focus on that. Um, and it's done in various ways. Of course, one example is like mine as the teacher. We look for situations and try to incorporate some life lesson educational moments in those situations. Of course, we have counselors at our schools who do a really good job of trying to get kids to understand these concepts of self-awareness. How do I become aware of what I'm thinking, what I'm doing and how that's making me behave. And then how does that affect the people around me? And so the school definitely has a focus. If you know anything about education and buzzwords, like SEL is a major buzzword in education right now. But another piece to that, which is another comment that was mentioned last time, was the community support. So it's vitally important for kids at this age to have a community that they know will support them, will help them, will coach and mentor them. You know, I do some of that in my business where, and shout out to Miss Tiana, who's on with me right now. Hey,
Hey,
girl.
Tiana.
Yes. So, you know, for her, I'm one of her community support members that I'm a trusted adult that she can come to if she wants to talk about anything for whatever reason. And all of our kids need that at this point in their life.
Mm-hmm. And I see Wanda Wozniak in the comments too saying this is the exact topic that she had a discussion with a teacher today. And I know she owns a tutoring business. And so helping the kids become self-aware, helping them understand that that responsible decision making and that self-management is something that I know she's talked with me about, saying these kids need these skills. They don't have it. They need these skills. So if you are looking for that mentor, that coach, then Miss Valerie Wilson is your person for sure.
Listen, it's what I do. I realized early on that I spent more of my time being the mentor and coach and enjoying that way more than I wanted to do the actual teaching of the math. I love both, but I
Yeah.
know that part of my purpose and my calling is to do that. So yeah, hit me
Yeah.
up.
So the community support, whether it be through coaches, mentors, tutoring centers, any outside of school agency or business that is working with the kids that come into the schools every day, we can get that social emotional learning curriculum or that information to them so that they are carrying it over outside of the school day, only makes a greater impact on the kids for sure. For sure.
I definitely don't want to leave out or let anybody think that we're leaving out the parent as part of that community. I mean, the parent is number one.
Yes.
Okay. You spend more time with your kid. You know them best because you've had them so much longer from birth. And so when we say community, we're including everybody. And so parents can also be that mentor that kids need. And it's important because your role as a parent changes as the kid gets older. So my son, who is 13 right now, I do have to take on more of a mentoring, coaching role with him as he grows and develops into an adult, which he's going to be very soon. So important right there.
Yes. And as we talk about parents, when we think about social media and kids using social media on a daily basis, what are some ways that you feel like parents can help just monitor their child's access or interaction with social media on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
Yeah, so definitely ask them, you know, how's it going on social media? What you doing on social media? Do you have a social media account? Listen, because just because you think they're not doing something, the kids are gonna find a way to do whatever they are gonna want to do. Personal experience, okay? So ask the questions. That's number one. Ask and see what they tell you, and then I've heard so many parents say and seen so many ways to block what they have access to have control over how much they have access to. So that's definitely important. And then, like, follow your kids' accounts. Like, see, just go in there and see what actually is happening.
Yeah. And I know, again, my son being 8, Roblox is his life right now. And Roblox can have that chat feature. So I've disabled that. I've let him know, hey, only um, friend people that I know. Don't just friend all these strangers out there on Roblox. Friend kids that you go to school with, kids that you know from, extracurricular activities. And then I went and created an avatar myself, and I have zero interest in Roblox at none. He sat with me. He helped me pick out, I think you call it the skin or whatever, the outfit for the
Yeah.
avatar. It was exciting for him. He told me I looked, lame with one of my hairdos that I had my avatar. So we switched it up. So I engaged him in that as well. I didn't do this like sneak attack type of situation where I went and created on my own and then, played detective. I engaged him in it, let him know, okay, now I have an avatar. Now I can be in these games with you when you're playing the games too. And I go in and I check, hey, who's on his friends list? Do I know these? Can he tell me who these people are? Do I know who they are? And if I don't, then we remove them and I have a conversation with him about making sure that he is understanding why I'm putting these parameters on it. And I think that's super important for older kids too that are using social media, for parents to take the time to explain, why am I putting up all these, which seem like restrictions on your access and use of social media? And I feel like sometimes that can get left out. It's just like, just do it because I said do it, or, don't get on that because I said don't get on it, without some explanation. And I know some people refer to that as like the new age parenting, where you're explaining everything and you're collaborating
Listen,
on everything.
you are soft parenting. I don't know if that's the
Uh-huh.
word for it, but gentle parenting, something in that area. I would
Yeah.
love to know from you guys who are watching what you think is appropriate actions to take to try to monitor what your kids are doing online on social media. So if you could just put in the chat for us, if you're a parent or if you know parents and you know something about their situation, like just what do you think? I think you said something really important, and I don't want it to get missed. It's super vital to have these conversations with the child. I know when I was growing up, I didn't get that. I didn't get that gift of, hey, this is why we're telling you not. Like I had to learn that as a hard lesson later
Yeah.
because it wasn't explained to me at the beginning. Not that it would have, kept me from doing everything, but at least at that point, I had enough information to make a good decision, whether I made it or not, versus, oh, well, my parents didn't let me do this, so I'm going to go do it because I can, you know?
Yep. Exactly. And so I also think it's a good idea to set up notifications. So if your child has Instagram, you have Instagram, set up the notifications so when they post something, you get notified so that you can see what they're posting, making sure it's appropriate, making sure that it's not crossing any lines. And that way you're staying engaged without, taking time to scroll through their feed. You get that automatic notification as well. Yeah. And that's,
Absolutely.
yeah. I see some comments here. Some teachers and parents use Go Guardian, which is an app that they can use to monitor their child's device as well. I know Bark is another one. You can actually get a Bark phone for your child. It looks like one of these smartphones, so they don't feel like they're the odd one out. It looks like a smartphone, but it has software on it that allows you to track everything that they see and do on their phone as well. So definitely taking advantage of the access to their interactions is super, super important. And as we were thinking about navigating social media, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to, I know we've kind of talked a lot about the middle school kid. That's the area that I work in. But as a mom of a younger kid, like, what are your thoughts on, or have you seen a situation in school that has been like a social challenge? And how do you think that that should be handled, like from the parent side or from the teacher side?
Yeah, so again, having an 8-year-old, social media isn't a thing for us right now. He's not really into that. but definitely those social relationships with friends at school, or classmates, I should say, at school, can definitely get tricky. So, one situation, there was a kid in his class that, was just giving my son a hard time. It was just telling on him for little things that he did, or, just not being nice. I wouldn't use the word bullying. It didn't go that far. He was just,
Right.
in my regular words, I would just say he was being a little punk. And I was getting tired of, like, my son's coming home telling me every day, this kid did this kid said that. He wasn't putting his hands on him, but he's just annoying my kid. And
Right.
so, we talked about it, and I asked him, like, what do you think you should do in this situation? He said, well, I should tell the teacher. Okay. Have you tried that? So we're talking through it. So he said telling the teacher was a great way to handle it. So I asked if he tried it. He said yes. So what happened? Did the teacher talk to him? Did the teacher talk to both of you? What was the resolution? So the teacher had talked with both of them. And then it got to the point where my son was like, can you homeschool me? And I immediately had like flashbacks to his kindergarten year during COVID. I like triggered. I'm good on homeschooling my kid. I don't ever want to do that again. So as soon as he said that, I'm like, why would you want to be homeschooled? Well, because this kid was bugging him so much, he just didn't want to go to school. So then it's like, now we've gotten to another level. So not only did I reach out to the school to share it with them, I talked with my son about different ways we could solve this problem, because he's
Mhm.
going to have to learn that, that responsible decision making, going back to that social emotional learning. He's going to have to learn how to handle the social interaction, the social challenges that he has with peers in his class. So
Mhm.
then we did a little bit of role play, and I pretended to be the little punk kid that was messing with him at school. And,
The other kid, Terry, the other kid.
the other kid, I'll go with that. The other kid that was giving him trouble at school. Um, and so we role played a couple different situations, and I had to give him the words to use when this kid approached him at school. So we talked about, hey, if he says he's going to tell on you and you know you haven't done anything wrong, then tell him, go tell. That's what we role played. Tell him, go tell the teacher. I'll go with you. I'll walk to the teacher with you, because it was my feeling that this kid was just making stuff up. He's not going to really go tell the teacher. And whatever he's telling the teacher isn't that big of a deal anyway. So I
Mhm.
said, tell him. So we role played that. A couple days later, pick him up from school, and he's like, I did it. I did what we practiced. I told him, go tell the teacher. Come on. I'll go with you. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And guess what he did? He didn't go tell the teacher anything. And everybody in the class saw that he was just lying. He wasn't going to tell the teacher. And so my son felt, you know, like he stood up for himself and handled the situation. And now, many weeks later, him and the kid are, I guess, friendly. I don't know if friends would be the exact word used, but they're friendly with each other. This kid hasn't given him any more problems. But instead of me just dismissing it and being like, yeah, I don't have time for 8-year-old problems today, like, figure it out, just ignore him, just keep telling the teacher. We role played some things to give him the experience with interacting with this kid and handling that problem. And in this situation, it helped. So I feel like that is really a great strategy, to just role play, give your kids the language to use with these, other classmates that they're having maybe some social challenges with. So then that way they're able to speak up for themselves. That you don't have to be the person to come in and intervene and handle the situation for them. Because as a parent, if we do that, then they never got a chance to develop the skills to try and correct the issue or try
So
to make the
true.
issue better.
It's so
Yeah.
true. Like that other side of the spectrum, because usually I see the two opposite sides. Either the parent is like just not interested, not like you said, your 8-year-old problems, like they're not interested at all, and they're like, go deal with it yourself, just go.
Yeah.
And there are certain kids that can learn how to handle it that way, because they're kind of wired that way, but most kids are not.
Mm.
I love how you said that you role played with him to kind of walk him through the process and to give him the language, because they're kids. Like,
Yeah.
they don't know how to verbalize this stuff, you know, in any kind of way that is productive usually. And then the fact that he tried, though, like, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the coolest part. So to me, that means, as the parent, as the mom, you did it in a way that empowered him,
Yeah.
instead of making him feel like, oh, well, you a punk for not standing up for yourself,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, and it's super important from the teacher perspective. I just have to say, please, like, don't run to the school every time that your kid comes home and says so and so said this or so and so said that. Like, I like how you took time to actually get the information from the situation, to see, you know, what was his perspective, but you also, you know, kind of rounded it out. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what else was happening? Like, it's not just this one single thing. Like, there's stuff around it that are also factors. So just being curious about the situation, and not just, you know, taking that word or just that particular part.
Yeah, I think it's definitely important for parents to understand when they should intervene, how they should intervene, and just come into an agreement on some possible solutions that your child can try out. Like you use that word empower, it empowers them to feel like they handled it. So next time, maybe they can look within to handle the next situation, because it's always going to be something, whether it's a social interaction in school or some comment that's left on social media. It's always going to be another thing. And if, as parents or as teachers, we come in and solve the problem for them all the time, then we're not giving them the chance to develop those skills. So, for sure, I wanted to ask you, as a teacher, kind of switching back to that teacher perspective, beyond what you did earlier when the scenario that you talked about with the two girls that were fighting, what are some other ways or other things that you think teachers can do when those social challenges are observed in class, whether they be in person or based on something that happened online?
Yeah. So, in my situation, I was able to get both girls together to have that conversation. There are lots of times when you won't be able to do that. So, and that really kind of depends on my relationship with each one of the kids. So, if I don't feel like I can get both at the same time, then I go for the kid I have the strongest relationship with. And I do kind of what you did with your son. I kind of walk them through. I've done role plays before to help them navigate the situation kind of on their own. And because I'm connected to them, they can come back and tell me, like, well, this is how this went, and I can kind of coach them through that. um, I also think that letting the administrators know that this is brewing, this is going on, like, definitely don't be dismissive about it.
Yeah.
I hear kids come tell me a lot of times, you know, this is happening. I said, well, who did you let know? They'll tell me which teacher they let know. I'm like, well, what did they say? They told me to just ignore it. They told me to just forget about it. They told me not to let it bother me.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes that can do more damage than good, because it's almost like you're telling them, well, you're not important enough, you know, to take care of the situation. You should take that from them, and just keep moving with your life. But we're talking about kids being emotional at their teenage years. They're
Yeah.
like, emotionally, they're like toddlers. Okay.
Yes.
So it's like starting all over again, but now they got big bodies. Okay.
Yeah.
So so maybe as much guidance as you have to give a 2, 3, 4 year old,
Yeah.
you really have to do a lot of that emotionally for these teenagers, especially in the middle school years.
Yeah. That's definitely a challenge. I'm glad I'm right now in the elementary school phase of it. And then I'm gonna get some tips and strategies from you so I can be prepared for that middle school time frame. Because I've heard it's a beast and I just like to be prepared. That's all.
Listen, I will share whatever you need, but trust me, it has not been a smooth road. Let me tell
Yeah.
you. And every other teenage parent that I talk to, we all say the same thing. We probably need a support group for each other.
just to feel like you're seen and you're heard, like we talked about at the top of the live today. Like people just want to feel seen and feel heard, and
Yeah.
that can mean parents want to connect with other parents that are experiencing the same thing, so that you can speak the same language, give suggestions to address the same situation, and just really help each other out. That sense of community that we also talked about as well, super duper important. Well, I know we are at close to the end of our time today, but I like to end with some tips and strategies for parents to use. So a great way for parents, whether you have young kids or older kids, to keep a pulse on your child's day is going to be asking them about their day at school. But I'm sure if you have kids, you've asked them, how was school? Good. You get this one word answer that is not deep. It doesn't give you any insight. It could have been something amazing that happened at school. You'll never know with the one word answer. It could be something horrible that happened at school. You'll never know with this one word answer. So we have developed a Google document, a newsletter for all of you to receive. Val is going to put a link for a Google form in the chat. You can just click that. You'll put your email address in there, and then we will send over the newsletter to you that has some alternate ways to ask that how was your day at school type of question, so that you can get more open-ended and more detailed answers. And then Valerie has also put some information on the newsletter too. Do you want to share what your
I
input was?
did, yes. So I love how you created these questions for us as parents, because it aggravates me to just get a good or it was okay and that's it. And it allows the communication to open up more so that parents can take on that coaching or mentoring role. And so the information that I've put in the newsletter is just the benefits of being that coach or being that mentor to a kid. And in order to do that well, it starts with opening that communication. So just a few reasons why it's important to look for mentoring and coaching for your kid, whether it's you, the parent, or whether it's a trusted adult outside of the immediate family. All of that information is in there. And again, that link is in the chat. All you got to do is put your name and your email, and you will receive that document from us.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I think this was a great discussion. I hope some parents got some good tips and strategies, and also any teachers who are watching as well got some strategies too, so that you can just be proactive in this response to social interactions and social media, because it's something that's inevitable. And if we can get ahead of it, then we don't have to play catch up, and it just makes things much smoother and reduces anxiety and worry and all of that. So I think this was a super great discussion. I hope everybody who joined us for the live or for the replay found some helpful information. If you do, please leave us a comment so we know how impactful what we discussed today was for you. And then we will see you all next Tuesday, same place, Facebook Live, same time, 9 o'clock
Anytime.
Eastern
That's
time.
right. That's right.
And we are going to continue our discussion around education, parent involvement, teacher involvement as well. So we hope you join us again next Tuesday, 9 o'clock.
Absolutely. And you guys, don't just leave us comments. Like, tell us what you want to hear us talk about. Like, Tiffany is so masterful at what she does and with the experience that she has. So go follow her on Our Words Matter. Okay. I've been an educator for a very long time. I have an immense amount of experience. Ask us questions about, anything pertaining to what we've talked about, or let us know what else you want to hear. You can follow me online at Anointed Armor Academy on Facebook or Instagram. So we really, really appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit and joining us tonight. And we can't wait to see you next week.
See you later. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.